Fiji and Wales this weekend, folks. Nations Championship. It is, believe it or not, a Fijian home game, despite the fact that it is being played in Cardiff. It sucks that we don't get to see games down in Fiji because the crowd there is something special. But hopefully Fiji being in this competition and getting some ticket sales and whatnot from this game can kind of help their investment into the game going forward. We'll go through the squads which have been named pretty quick. You guys can let us know your thoughts on who to look out for. And we'll get to the predictions at the end. But just quietly, I always wear the underdog jersey for the preview. For the Fijians, what am I looking to see from this team? Well, their back row is very good. Soakula, Salawa, Thanakaivata. Thanakaivata and Salawa both playing for the Fijian and Drua this year. Absolutely electric players. Thanakaivata in particular loves to get his hands on the ball. A lot of carries from that man. And Salawa has got a generally very good all-round skill set. He carries, he offloads, he wins turnovers, he tackles. He genuinely does a bit of everything. So the battle between the sevens this game will be fascinating. We've got a couple of Drua guys in the second row. Bit of an enforcer in Maya Vanua and Nasila Sila very busy in the air. And then the front row will be an interesting one with Hoyt having to come in for the injured Luke Tangi at tight head. Less experience, so maybe an opportunity there for the Welsh. But Maui is a seasoned campaigner and Ikanaveri is the captain. The hooker loves a more try, loves a bit of work around the paddock. So the forward pack is looking pretty good. The centres is where the Fijian backline, I feel like, is maybe the highest profile. Joshua Tui Silva, that big tank of a man, and then Semi Ranradra. I mean, in World Rugby terms, that's a very, very good midfield. I mean, Ranradra is getting a bit older now, but he's kind of playing a lot more midfield than he is out in the outside backs. He's going to get offloads. He's going to beat guys, and just Tui Silva's going to carry through them. So very, very good looking midfield. And then the outside backs for Fiji are always going to be good. Wainingolo, Ravutamanda, and Rayasi. Rayasi's had a cracking year for Bordeaux. Likewise Wainingolo in the top 14. So you get the feeling at least a couple of these guys are probably going to get on the board. The 19 combo of Lomani and Armstrong Ravula is a bit more Drua looking. For some reason, Muntz is not in the squad. They're regular 10. I'm not sure if he's injured or if he's a bit of a late returner to the squad after playing in the D2. But overall, their squad's looking pretty good. I'm pleased to see Yato is back. He's in on the bench after missing out for a couple of years. 5-3 split for the Fijians. For Wales, we're going to see some punch is going to be an interesting one because they've kicked a lot off 9. And they kick often quite long. So that's Thomas Williams' job at 9. He's certainly going to be directing the team around the paddock alongside Dan Edwards at 10. Dan Edwards' game is still definitely developing at international level, but having a veteran campaigner, a British and Irish Lion like Thomas Williams next to you is certainly going to help. But like the midfield for Wales just doesn't compare in terms of the profile for the Fijian one. Like Joe Hawkins and Eddie James, both good players. I think Eddie James was a little bit underrated in the Six Nations, but you're up against Semi Radradra and Joshua Tuisova, so you're not as high profile as those guys at the minute. Probably forever, because those guys are both legends in Fijian rugby. Rhys Dammit, though, he is certainly a high-profile guy on the right wing. He's shifting from fullback, and Blair Murray is maybe a guy that sees a bit of X-factor in this game. He's not the biggest guy. He's a small fella, but he is deceptively quick and very, very agile on his feet. So I like to see a bit of X-factor from that guy. Josh Adams, the veterans, on the other wing. So the backs are probably not as high-profile or sexy as what the Fijian guys are. But these guys, if playing to a game plan, can still do a job. The forwards, you feel like if they are going to win the game, Wales, as underdogs, will need to front up. Reece Carey around the paddock at loose head is certainly one of the most fun props to watch in the business. Adam Baird always gets a lot of stick. He's selected at lock. He will need to be not putting boot to ball, which he tried, was it in the Six Nations or last year? Didn't work out well for him. But in terms of keeping to his core role of making tackles, stopping mauls, scrummaging, then he could be an asset to the team. But I like the back row. When Wales is like number 1 side in the world, or now number 11, they've always got a good back row. A lot of tackles to come from Alex Mann and Jack Morgan. Jack Morgan's kind of like, I mentioned Salawa in the Fijian team. He's that guy who could do everything. He can kick, he can turn over, he can tackle, he can carry. He's going to be their talisman, even if he's not played as much rugby in recent times with injuries as he would have liked. And then Aaron Wainwright will certainly get through the bulk of the carries at number 8. Bench-wise, they got Ben Warren, the Ospreys tight head prop, who will be getting his debut, even if he did play against the Barbars last week. So congrats to him. It looks like Tane Plumtree is going to cover lock. He's in the number 19 jumper, so not really a specialist lock on the bench. And yeah, they've also gone for a 5-3 split. Stats-wise, Wales in the Six Nations this year tended to have less possession and territory than the other teams. That tends to happen with the teams that finish near the bottom of the table. To be fair, they are kind of having to live a little bit off scraps, which means fewer carries, fewer defenders beaten, fewer offloads because they just don't have as much ball. But it does mean they win a lot of turnovers. So they are good at that area of the game, and they've picked a team which matches that skill set. And they get a lot of kick meters. They're a team that has to get a lot of kick meters if they don't live with as much possession. So sometimes they need to get out of dodge. We see a long kick from the Welsh guys making those clearances rather than necessarily always going for contestable kicks. So they'll need to be defensively very strong and play territory when it's on. For the Fijians, I mean, as I said, they get the plaudits for all the offloading and defenders beating, which they do. They are very, very, very good at that. But, I mean, last year they were still quite capable of opting for threes when they were on, so they can play a little bit more tight, a little bit more conservative. They can go for maul tries. They can play kind of ugly or tight or whatever you want to call it. They definitely have the players to do a bit of both. Their line-out is still not great. I don't think they ever had 100% line-out in any of their games at all last year, so that's an area they would certainly like to improve. Discipline, sometimes conceding a few too many penalties, but they've got game breakers, and they've got guys who can kind of do the traditional core roles as well. So it's a pretty good-looking Fiji team. They are favourites, despite the fact that they have only got a 1-4 record against Wales in their last 5, Fiji. They won 24-19 back in 2024. And you feel like Fiji's probably taken a little bit of a step forward since then, and Wales have kind of been... Maybe they're on a bit of a recovery at the moment, but it seems to be a bit of a long road back. Some of those wins that the Welsh have racked up in those last 5 go back to the days of like 2015, 2019, when Wales were a lot stronger on the world stage. Average score is 28-21 to Wales, but Fiji favourites. 9 points with the Rugby Forecast algorithm, 1 point with the bookies. It is on at Cardiff. Owen Cross, the Irishman, is the ref. So we'll see how he goes. Hopefully the game gets a bit of flow about it. But if you're Wales, you feel like you probably need to keep it a bit tighter, a bit more conservative. Go to your fundamentals. Don't let Fiji play their game. But as I said, Fiji do have it in their wheelhouse to mix it with that kind of team as well. Plus game breakers who can score from basically any situation. So if Wales kick long and don't put pressure on kick return, Fiji will definitely be keen to run it back at them. But you guys let us know your thoughts. It is a new coach for Fiji, by the way, so there might be a little bit of uncertainty about them there, but they've certainly got a pretty stacked squad. You guys let us know your thoughts. Subscribe. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.